Hello, and welcome to What to Do While You Wait for a Developmental Disability Waiver. This is a presentation by the ARC of Virginia. It's especially for individuals and their families who are on the Developmental Disabilities Waiver waiting list and are interested in what happens while you're on that waiting list and what you can do to be involved. The ARC of Virginia is a state chapter of the ARC of the United States, which is the nation's oldest and largest organization of and for people with developmental disabilities and their families. The ARC's mission is to promote and protect the human rights of people with or at risk of developmental disabilities and actively support their full inclusion and participation in the community throughout their life. In this presentation, we will go over the DD waiver application steps, the role of individuals and families, the waiver assignment process, services and supports available, and we're going to talk about how to educate, advocate, and tell your story, and then we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. Do you know what the waiver services are, and do you know which waiver service you need? If you don't know the answers to these questions, there's a wonderful guidebook put out by the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, and you'll see the link there that will take you to this guide. And if you don't know what the waiver services are, and you don't know what the 3 different DD waivers are, please use this as a great reference book throughout the process. In the beginning, to get a developmental disabilities waiver, you contacted your local community services board to request a screening for the developmental disability waiver to see if you were eligible. To be found eligible for a DD waiver, a person must have a developmental disability or be at risk of a developmental disability. And then people are screened with an assessment tool called the VIDES, V-I-D-E-S. The VIDES assesses the type, the level, and the frequency of help or care that a person has for doing everyday activities such as dressing, bathing, eating, communication, health, living skills, decision-making, etc., compared to a person of the same age without a disability. Now, this is a deficits-based assessment. That means that the focus is on the challenges, the weaknesses, or the inability of a person who needs a waiver to perform these basic everyday activities. So this is the day that you focus on what help is needed by the person, either from another person, from a mechanical device, or from some sort of technology throughout the day and night. There is no sugarcoating. So it's not fun to talk about yourself or your family member's need for help, especially in front of them. It is not necessary that the individual be present for the entire screening. You could also write out information and provide it to the screener so that the child or the adult doesn't have to hear what help or what challenges a person needs. One of the most important takeaways for you is that the person who needs a waiver needs to be considered in their abilities to do a task based on there being no services, no supports, no parents, no families available to help with that. That means that a child has no parents, no other helpers, technology, care, or babysitters to assist at all with daily needs. So let's take showering as an example. If the person is of an age where they would typically be able to take a shower if they didn't have a disability, think about all the different steps that are involved with taking a shower. First of all, you have to know that you need to take a shower. Now, does someone need to tell you that? Does someone need to push you in a wheelchair into the bathroom, help you get undressed? Do you need verbal instruction? All the way through all the steps of getting the water on, getting completely clean, getting the soap out of your hair, getting dry, turning the water off. So for every task and activity, think about all the different steps that are involved and if that person needs some sort of help in order to carry that task out. You may prepare for the VIDES by getting a copy of it. We have it right there on the screen. It's on our website. So read the VIDES ahead of time. Think about the type of information that you need to give. Due to the public health crisis, the VIDES assessment may occur virtually rather than the screener, the person from the CSB being in person with you to do that. Always request a copy of the VIDES once it's completed, review it, check it for accuracy. If you think you left some information out, or maybe you think it didn't really capture what the person's level of care needs are, then call the screener back and discuss it with them. Whenever there's any change in the individual's functioning, in the care that they're receiving, contact the CSB screener and let them know what has changed relative to what's on the VIDES. While you're on the waiting list, it is really important that you be in touch with the CSB and contact them whenever there are changes that have occurred. Once you're found to be eligible for the waiting list, then everyone on the waiting list is determined to have a priority level of 1, 2, or 3. People who are in priority level 1 are considered to be the people who have the greatest need, the greatest risk of being placed in some sort of institution or hospital. So this is a way to prioritize all the people that are on the waiting list and prioritize who has the greatest urgency of need for services so that they can live successfully in the community and not be at risk of losing community placement. People in priority level 1, again, are considered to have the greatest needs. For this priority level determination, we strongly recommend that you review the priority levels that are on a sheet before the screening. Discuss the priority levels with the Community Services Board representative and see which level you think represents your needs or your child's needs. At this time, it's really important for the family or the primary caregivers to make sure that they have told the screener of any health conditions, any financial burdens, or other situations that may be impacting the parents or the caregiver's ability to provide the support to the person who needs the waiver. And often families and caregivers do not realize that they need to be very, very honest and open about their situation and what may be impacting their ability to provide care and if they are neglecting their own health at this point. The individual who is receiving services the individual receiving services, if able, they should also make known any concerns they have about the supports and the caregiving that they need. A person's priority level may change at any time due to changes that may occur to the individual or to the caregiver. So it's really important to keep the case manager or the Community Services Board, whoever your contact person is, up to date about any changes that could occur that might affect your priority level. People in priority level 1 are considered to have the most urgent need for waiver services, and they are the only ones who will be considered for the FIS waiver or the community living waiver when waivers are available. On this slide, you will see many, many words. And I'm not going to read it all to you, but there are 4 possible criteria to meet for a person to be classified or to be put into priority level 1. You don't have to meet all 4 of these criteria, you just have to meet 1. So instead of reading all these words to you, I just want to summarize. It is important for you to read the priority level criteria closely to know if you are in priority level 1 and which criteria you meet. To meet to meet criteria 1 or to meet criteria 2A or 2B, basically the person who needs the waiver must be in some sort of health or safety risk because they aren't able to get the level of care they need. That could be due to behavioral supports they need. It could be to medical needs or health conditions that they have. Or the primary caregiver must be at a point where they have chronic long-term physical or psychiatric conditions that are significantly limiting the ability of the caregiver to provide the care that the person needs, and there are no other unpaid caregivers available. The other criteria that someone could meet to be in priority level 1 is if the person lives in an institution, or if the individual is a young adult who's no longer eligible for IDEA or school services, and that person is transitioning to independent living. That priority level can be met for people up to the age of 27, but once they reach 27, if they don't have a waiver, then they would no longer be in priority level 1 unless they met one of the other criteria that we've just gone over. So at this point, since you're on the waiver waiting list, there's a little bit of good news for you. There are some other resources that may be something that you want to take advantage of. The Individual and Family Support Program, commonly called the IFSP program, is only for people who are on the DD waiver wait list, and it is a financial assistance program to assist people with some sort of service or support that they need to remain in the community. So the goal of this program is to support community living. There are specific application periods during the year when applications are taken for consideration. So that you know when this is available, you need to make sure you're on the email distribution list from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, so you will know what the requirements are and when you can submit an application. Another support that's available to adults who are on the DD waiver wait list, or if they already have a DD waiver, is housing rental assistance. So this is money that would help pay the rent for someone who wants to live apart from their parents. They're living in their own place, their own apartment. And while you may be wondering, well, how could my person do that if they don't have the waiver and the supports they need? There can be situations where maybe somebody is using the CCC Plus waiver, or they have other natural supports which would allow them to do that. Or, of course, as I said earlier, when you get a waiver, then you may also seek housing rental support. Case management or support coordination is also available. There are requirements for that for who is eligible. And you can find lots more information about all of this at the links that we have here that you can see. So now let's go back to the next step of the waiver waiting list process. So there's something called the critical needs summary that is done for individuals who are in priority level 1. So if someone's in priority level 1, the critical needs summary is done to assess that person's urgency of need compared to other people in their community services board. And the case manager does this, or the support coordinator, and you as the individual who needs a waiver or the family may participate in this and give input as to how the person is rated. So the critical needs summary looks at the level of need and the level of risk for losing placement in the community. A set of criteria on the critical needs summary form is rated, and it produces a score which reflects how great your need is compared to others in your CSB who are in priority level 1. At this time, you will also want to discuss the supports and services with the case manager, support coordinator that you need. So look at the waiver services to identify the services that you will need to meet your needs. Request a copy of the completed critical needs summary and update it when changes occur. The CNS score, the critical needs summary score, is used to identify the individuals with the greatest need when waivers are available. Those individuals with the highest scores are considered for waivers. So please remember that the score is relative to other people in your community services board. There is no set score that says a person can be considered for a waiver. Waivers become available when there are new waivers funded by the General Assembly. Waivers also become available when people are no longer going to use a waiver. For example, when they move out of state, if somebody dies, if someone for some reason is no longer eligible, or they're not benefiting from the waiver, don't want those services or supports anymore. So waivers can become available at your CSB anytime throughout the year. So when the waivers are available, the CSB looks at the people who are in priority level 1, and they look at those individuals who have the highest critical needs scores. And those people are the ones who will get considered when waivers are available. Depending on the number of waivers available, the individuals who have the highest scores are going to be reviewed by the Waiver Slot Assignment Committee. So the case manager prepares a form called the Waiver Slot Assignment Review Form for each person that's going to be reviewed by the committee. You may request to help prepare the information that will be included on the form and ask to review it before it's presented to the committee. The information on the form is non-identifying. There's no identifying information on it, so you have complete confidentiality there. And now by this time, if you're being considered, you should know which services you need and which of the 3 waiver types will meet your immediate needs, because at this time, it will be considered which waiver, which type of waiver would best meet your needs. And the committee is composed of community members. They may not be staff of the Community Services Board, and they may not have any vested interest in who is selected for the waivers. There are no Community Services Board staff who are on this committee either. So let's just do a little recap of the DD waiver application process that we have been through. First of all, eligibility was determined when you went to the Community Services Board, and it was determined that you did have a developmental disability or you were at risk, and they looked at your level of care, your functional abilities on the VIDES. Then your priority level determination on the waiting list was done, and that priority level of 1, 2, or 3 may change at any time depending on your circumstances. And then if you are in priority level 1, the critical needs summary is done, which assesses the urgency of your need compared to other people in your community services board. And then if you are in the pool of people based on your critical needs summary score and how many waivers are available, then the slot assignment review form is completed, and that goes before the waiver slot assignment committee. If you need help navigating the waiver process, the ARC of Virginia is here to provide free individual consultation and trainings and help answer your questions about the waiver process. It is a very complex process and it changes frequently. So feel free to email us at info@thearcofva.org or give us a call at 804-649-8481. We also have lots more deeper information about what I've talked about on our website also, where you're free to go and review that. So what should you be doing while you're waiting? The answer is you need to be active. We've talked about staying in touch with the Community Services Board, preparing ahead of time for the processes, always making sure you have copies. So you want to prepare, collaborate with your case manager, you want to review forms, you want to make sure information is updated. You've got to stay informed about what's going on with the DD waiver program. The regulations and the processes change frequently. One way to stay involved and be connected is to join an advocacy group. Join your local ARC, the ARC of Virginia and the ARC of US. You also need to find other resources. Talk to other people who may be in similar circumstances as you. Talk to people who may already have a waiver. You've got to educate yourself, you need to advocate, and you need to tell your story to your members of the General Assembly, because they are the ones who decide how many waivers are available. I want to go through a few resources that are available to you just to make sure you know about them. REACH is a crisis support system specifically for people with developmental disabilities who may have a behavioral or mental health crisis. The REACH program provides 24/7 crisis assessment and intervention. It provides mobile direct services, outpatient counseling. They also have a brief crisis therapeutic home, crisis intervention and prevention planning, and training for individuals and their family support system. Some of you may have, or you have heard of, the CCC Plus Medicaid Waiver, Commonwealth Coordinated Care Plus Medicaid Waiver. That's the waiver that does not have a waiting list. It's available to people of any age with a disability, except if the person is over 65, they don't have to have a disability. But everyone must have a medical or nursing need. They are very, very strict about that. This waiver has far fewer services than the DD waiver. It has 9 services. It is not what we call a comprehensive waiver like the DD waiver is, but many people use this waiver while they're waiting for a DD waiver. There's a completely different application process than the DD waivers. And you can read all about this waiver on our website. I want to mention some of the flexibilities that have come about due to COVID-19. So for example, people who are on the CCC Plus waiver, parents of minor children, that means children under the age of 18, and spouses of people who are on the waiver who are using personal care services, they may now become paid attendants, and that's available until January 26, 2001. So if you are a parent, your child is under age 18, and they're using personal care services, then you may become a paid attendant if you want temporarily. A lot of the face-to-face requirements for Medicaid requirements for waivers, those have been waived and may be done virtually now, and this is in place until January 26th. We have a website that specifically focuses on the coronavirus and how it affects people with developmental disabilities and their families. We keep that updated. You'll find a individual and family FAQ information document there. So I encourage you to go look there and read more about the flexibilities that are available at this time. You went to the Community Services Board, or you went to the one behavioral health authority in the state to get screened and placed on the waiver wait list. The community services boards provide a host of other services, and if you're not familiar with them, you want to find out what they are, because maybe they offer something that would be helpful to you now while you're waiting or at any time. So briefly, CSBs, they serve children 0 to 3 who have a developmental disability who are at risk. They serve people of all ages with behavioral health or developmental disabilities. They respond to psychiatric emergencies 24/7. They provide treatment for substance use disorders, and they have prevention and education activities. So let your screener, let your case manager know what would be helpful and find out what they might have that could be of help to you. Starting at age 14, DARS, or the Virginia Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services, is able to provide a wide range of employment and support services for people who are interested in working. They help with the transition process starting at age 14, so people can start developing their educational plans, their post-educational plans when they graduate from high school. Are they going on to college? Are they getting a job? What sort of training do they need? So for more information about DARS, you may go to that link there. There are Centers for Independent Living in Virginia, commonly called CILs, and they provide peer support, information and referral, individual and systems advocacy, independent living skills training. They also provide transition services for people who are leaving facilities and moving to community living. I mentioned the individual and family support program earlier. You have to be on the waiting list. They fund a variety of services and supports and items. They have defined application periods, and to stay in touch with that and know what's going on, go to the link below and make sure you're on their distribution list. I also mentioned housing rental support for adults who want to live independently from their family. So you must have a DD waiver, or you can be on the DD waiver wait list. You would start with your case manager. This provides rental assistance. They also have a fund for what's called flexible funding to help offset the costs of moving into your own apartment, helping with utility, deposit bills, things like that. There's also the DBHDS, Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services housing team, who's available to you to help with this big new project of living on your own and living with supports independently. So waivers are a very complicated system. Virginia has a very complicated system. And so the ARC of Virginia is here to help you find the information you need and to answer questions. So again, please feel free to contact us, email or call, and also visit our website. We have lots more information on our website about all the topics that we have talked about during this presentation. So I hope you've found it helpful, and thank you for joining this.